You're watching Reality Check. From Goa to Punjab to Assam and beyond, the Congress, India's main opposition party, is unravelling rapidly. This evening, its former Chief Minister Amarinder Singh, who was pushed out in an unseemly manner, met Home Minister Amit Shah for almost an hour in Delhi tonight. They supposedly spoke about the farm laws, but the signal is clear. Another Congress heavyweight appears to be drawing closer to the BJP, casting more doubt on the Congress's chances to hold on to one of the few remaining states it still controls. Now, messy part transitions or high-profile defections are not unusual in Indian politics. But what is striking is the prolonged crisis of leadership in the Congress, specifically over the inability of the Gandhi family to stem the decline. Today, Kapil Sibal, one of the leaders of a group of dissenting congressmen known as the G23, broke his silence, asking who is taking the decisions in the Congress.
In our party, at the moment, there is no president. So we don't know who is taking these decisions. We know and yet we don't know. एक बात तो स्पष्ट है, हम जी हजूर 23 नहीं हैं। ये तो बात स्पष्ट है, ठीक है ना? हम अपनी बात रखेंगे और रखते जाएंगे। It's ironic कि जो लोग इनके खासम खास थे, वो तो इनको छोड़ के चले गए, और जो लोग ये समझते हैं इनके खासम खास नहीं हैं, वो आज भी इनके साथ खड़े हैं। I want to end with the words of Mahatma Gandhi. He said, I have repeatedly observed that no school of thought can claim a monopoly of right judgment.
All right, joining me tonight on Reality Check, I have with me N. Ram, Director of the Hindu Publishing Group, Sanjay Kumar, Psephologist and Professor at CSDS. We have Gilles Vernier, who's Assistant Professor of Political Science at Ashoka University. Nalini Singh, Senior Journalist, is with us, and Hardeep Kingra, Chief Media Panelist and Spokesperson, Punjab Congress, is with us. Let me first start immediately with Punjab and then move on to the wider malaise of the Congress. And let me just start by asking you, Sanjay Kumar, that what you make of all of this now with this, Amarinder Singh, Amit Shah meet, because while it's true that there are reasons for both sides to kind of, there's a mutual interest there, the fact is that the BJP has a lot of negative capital in Punjab, and Captain Amarinder also does, which is why he was removed without a single MLA coming to his side. So, if there is some kind of arrangement or alliance of sorts, is that really going to work, and will it actually further damage the Congress?
Srinivasan, work for whom? I think the point is very clear. Amarinder is going to damage the Congress. He has already damaged the Congress.
Right.
Now, what we make out of the meeting with Amit Shah, we can only speculate. The speculation is that he went to discuss the issue of farm laws,
sure,
with Amit Shah. But the problem, there is a problem with that. And the story which is being built around is that, he can persuade Amit Shah to, make some amendments to the farm laws. And then Amarinder can join BJP and he could become the BJP's face BJP's face in Punjab. But I think the farmers are sure, the farmers won't accept anything less than withdrawal of the entire laws. That I doubt is going to happen. That's not going to happen. If Amarinder becomes a negotiator between the farmers and the BJP and brings out a kind of a middle
solution,
path, then this could be a possibility.
Okay.
But all in all, the damage for the Congress has already been done.
No, damage for Congress is done. But my point was, will Amarinder, suppose he floats his own party or goes to the polls with the joins the BJP, either way, is that going to help him? Is there going to be any traction to that arrangement? Given, as I said, both of them have certain political liabilities that they carry.
Yeah, if he floats his own party, we know that many popular leaders have floated their own party, but they have not become very, very successful in the first election. He is already 80. We must recognize that.
Right.
So he might get 5-6% vote, but he would seriously damage the Congress. If he joins BJP, yes, BJP's stock would arise because he has some kind of a popularity, but I really doubt that even if he joins BJP, he would be able to bring BJP to power in Punjab. So I don't think he has that kind of an attraction in Punjab now.
Right. Hardeep Kingra, so the captain may not get much traction on his own, but he could further damage you if he goes alone or if he goes, with the BJP.
You know, about the decision of Captain Amarinder Singh Sidhu, let me say that he is a very seasoned politician. He cannot be guided or misguided by people who are lower in stature than him, because he doesn't listen much to his advisors, who are, again, maybe a couple of them here and there.
He's met Amit Shah. I mean, let's now, cut to the chase.
No, BJP is always, ready to take the dropouts from different parties, and sometimes they do engineer defections as well, as they have done in TMC, in Bengal and all that. So BJP is on the lookout.
No, Kingra Sahab,
or BJP.
My simple question is that is Captain Amarinder either going with his own regional party or perhaps with some sort of tie-up with the BJP? Is that going to hurt you in Punjab, the Congress?
Amarinder will not gain anything out of it, but certainly he will do some damage to the Congress, no doubt about it. Because, there are two kinds of following in political system. One is the followers of the party, which is the cadre. And second is the followers of the individual in a small state, like those who are the benefactors of Amarinder Singh in position.
Right.
All those benefactors of Amarinder Singh in position, they will certainly pay back the loyalty to him.
Okay.
And that kind of damage will be there.
Okay. As always, you speak directly, which one appreciates, especially to be a spokesperson of the Congress right now. Not position that one would envy. But let me just go across to NRAM. Sudhindra Kulkarni is also joining us. Welcome. NRAM, to open this up beyond Punjab, as another symptom, as one more indication of the unraveling of the Congress. We know it has been happening for a long time. We see every day more evidence of it. But it seems to have picked up pace much faster than what people may have imagined.
Vasu, it's very hard to understand, to make sense of what they are doing. And as Kapil Sibal has very clearly stated, nobody, there's no visible leadership. Nobody knows who makes the decision. Nobody's taking responsibility for it. And it looks like, so far as Punjab is concerned, looking at it from afar, the Congress was on a very good wicket.
Sure.
BJP was nowhere. And now it looks like, and looking at what happened in Kerala, where 3 secretaries, 2 general secretaries and 1 secretary are now saying they've walked out because of the changes that are brought out summarily. And they say we are willing to work with the enemy, the CPIM. I personally am quite happy with that, given my views on how Kerala's development should take over. But it's not good news for the Congress. So I think you can only say, as far as we can see now, they seem bent on snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, starting with Punjab and elsewhere.
Okay,
so the real problem lies in the party, the leadership, the refusal to either accept responsibility or say make place for somebody else. I don't want to name names here, but that's what everybody, it's apparent to the whole country.
No, I think that, the names are self-evident. But Nalini Singh, so at the moment, we haven't seen an outright challenge or an outright revolt within the Congress yet. We're seeing these sorts of shots being fired across the bow, like Kapil Sibal here, somebody else there. Amarinder Singh, if he exits the Congress, could become the first real recent example of somebody actually breaking and forming his own outfit, similar to Mamta and Sharad Pawar and so many others. But do you see any kind of serious now internal revolt or challenge building up, given how deep-seated the crisis is, or you think it will just kind of sputter along like this till we don't know when?
Vasu, I think that seeing what has happened in the past in the Congress party, these 2 siblings are coasting along. Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, with great respect to her, please, if you can get the echo off, with great respect to her, I would say that this is really deja vu. This is what happened in UPA 2. It was told that Sonia Gandhi was not well, that she had terminal cancer, and thank God she didn't. And at that time, Dr. Manmohan Singh had had 5 or 6 stents inserted into his heart. So they were both extremely ill, and UPA went where it went in UPA 2. Exactly the same is happening now. It is said that there is really no president. Mrs. Sonia Gandhi is supposed to be a retired president back only temporarily. Look at Rahul Gandhi and Priyanka Vadra Gandhi. There is nobody saying these siblings have to be out now, or they have to improve. Who are they that they cannot take this, carry the can for what is happening? There is one thing I have always felt. Rahul Gandhi is about 50 years old. The Prime Minister is about 70 years old, 71 years old. Right. That is a huge gap. I have always felt that a lot of knowledge assimilates in that gap. So now Rahul Gandhi says all those who are afraid might go. So is this a Mohalla brawl, or is this a political party of the democracy of India? Sure. They have to make up their minds. And Priyanka Vadra Gandhi must come now. Tonight she must face the press and say, look, this is what I meant. Now, the other thing, Vasu, just very small thing.
Before you go to your next point.
In a party that hasn't had elections.
Right.
Elections. It hasn't had elections.
It hasn't had elections. Okay, we'll come to that in a second.
About
the absence of internal democracy. But Gilles Vernier, coming to you, the reason why this is beyond just the kind of almost circus-like headlines that all of this makes at prime time, the reason why this is worrying for any of us who has a stake in Indian democracy, not in any political party, is that the Congress still remains the main opposition to the BJP at a national level. And if you look at the numbers, we'll put those graphics up on screen, the decline of the Congress actually, in a sense, shadows or mirrors the decline of Indian democracy. You have a weak, collapsing opposition. It's just not healthy. So the Congress's vote share, as you know, has crashed from almost 30%, it's down to 20% in the course of a decade. There are close to 200 seats where the Congress and the BJP are in a direct fight. And in 2019, as you know, the BJP won 175, with a strike rate of over 90%. The Congress has a strike rate of over 8%. So that's just a complete, so the BJP starts every election with those almost 170, 180 seats. That's the real worry, that if the Congress doesn't get its act together, till such time as someone else comes to replace it, this is not good for democracy.
No, that's true. I mean, we can speak at length about, the perspective of, third front or regional parties fronts. But the fact is that as long as the BJP keeps sweeping the Hindi belt in national elections, it's going to have a fantastic head start, compared to any kind of, opposition configuration, which makes, the situation in Punjab all the more incomprehensible, because of course we can debate about what the BJP does to democracy, the engineering defections and so forth, but the situation in Punjab is completely self-inflicted.
Yeah.
In the one state where the brand of politics of BJP actually has not entered, the kind of polarization strategies, the kind of way the BJP has built ground-up organizations and sort of give it imprimatur on the terms of the debate. That's something that has not taken root in Punjab, that has not worked, and to the advantage of Congress. And that makes it all the more incomprehensible that they should basically shoot themselves, in the feet in that particular state.
Okay.
You cannot take refuge behind the absence of formal leadership to claim that you don't know who takes the decision or how decisions are made. That's an extraordinary statement.
Right.
Everybody knows who takes the decision, if not the Gandhis who. The problem is the indecision at the helm. Whether they have formal power within the party is in a way irrelevant. But they don't seem to know how to make up their minds.
Okay. So, no, so you're right. They can't, this is not something you can blame on anybody else but yourself. But Sudheen Kulkarni, if Sudheen Kulkarni is back with us, the question that I was posing earlier, Sudheen, is that we have seen, parties facing defections. We have seen how messy it can be when you replace chief ministers. But, you know, how do you explain this prolonged, continuing kind of crisis at the top of the Congress, where you just seem to be almost in a state of paralysis, like a deer stuck in a headlights, just watching one political train wreck after the next?
You are absolutely right. The press conference that Kapil Sibal held today has raised important issues, even though Shri Sibal himself is not a leader of any consequence. But the fact that the Congress party, the main opposition party, and the only party that can be the core of tomorrow's opposition unity is in such disarray is a matter of deep concern for people who believe in a functioning democracy in India and for people who are well-wishers of the Congress, like me. But the party is today facing a crisis of ideology, a crisis of organization, a crisis of leadership, and on top of all this, also a crisis of complacency. There seems to be absolutely no sense of urgency that the house must be put in order. For months on end, the problem is staring the Congress in its face. It has faced two humiliating defeats in consecutive parliamentary elections. And as the N. Ram rightly mentioned, here was an opportunity for the Congress to revive by winning a few important states or retaining those states like Punjab. And at present, it looks as if the Congress is may not come to power again. And therefore, the leadership must answer very tough questions and satisfy its own supporters, its own workers.
So the leadership needs to step up. But Sanjay Kumar, I want to ask you that because I feel almost every time we do this Congress in decline, leadership absent debate, it's like a sense of deja vu. Really now you can see that different parties are looking at a time when there'll be, a life outside of the Congress as the main opposition party. You see the AAP trying to fill certain spaces in places like Goa and some of the hill states, already in Punjab. You see even the Trinamool trying to jump in. But as a political, as a pundit, a psephologist, realistically, what kind of time cycle will it take for the Congress, a party like the Congress, to fully decline and then something else emerge as a national alternative to the BJP?
Vasu, I don't see this happening in the next Lok Sabha election, which is 2024.
Sure. No, that's a given. That's too soon. But 5, 10 years, 50 years?
No, I'm saying, but if Congress faces again a humiliating defeat like the defeat of 2014 and 2019, in 2024 also, I think then after that, the pace of decline of the Congress will get accelerated to beyond the imagination of any one of us. So after that, it will be very fast. Next 4 or 5 years, I think that would be the time when the two parties which you mentioned and maybe some other parties, they will start feeling the vacuum which will be created by the Congress.
Okay, N. Ram, do you want to put on your kind of Nostradamus hat and gaze into a future where there's some other outfit, whatever that is, which emerges as the main opposition party, and what kind of time frame do you think it will take to get there?
I don't think we can write off the Congress because it's a party that at least has some roots all over the country. And as you said, it's the main opposition. It may seem to make all the wrong moves at a particular point of time, but I wouldn't write off the Congress over a 10-year period or anything, and you may be in for some surprises because the causes are now, the problem has been diagnosed well enough. For example, in this, whatever you think, individuals in the group of 23 or whatever, I think they have a diagnosis. They say this is the cause, not a visible leadership, who makes the decisions. Take responsibility, work hard, etc. And I think if they follow that, I wouldn't write the Congress off. And I wouldn't be sure.
I mean, when I say right, I don't mean immediately, but I'm saying at some point, if any institution, entity continues to deteriorate, at some point, it's going to, and by its own making.
I think there is a possibility of course correction.
Okay. Nalini Singh, do you think that, because when you look at the people who in the Congress who are saying, hey, we need to fix things, you know, are these really the people who can remedy that? I mean, so many of them are, you know, leaders who have not fought elections in years. They're just holding on to their Rajya Sabha seats. That's one of the things that really gets them upset. So, is there any way or force or a person in the Congress who can really turn it around?
Vasu, I think two things can turn things around. If the NDA, the BJP particularly, makes a fatal error and they are not able to paper over it as they have successfully done in other errors that they have made. That's one. The other one is if the Congress realizes, the so-called leadership realizes that you cannot keep talking about ideology without actually doing something.
Sure.
This is now almost new India is almost an ideology-free India, except for the ideology that the BJP and the RSS are offering. Now, the weakness of the weak articulation by the Congress saying this is the idea of India, that, you know, whatever, they've got to crystallize it and actually punch something in between the eyes that the other person sees stars, and they say, yes, this is the right thing. So I think that one is a fatal mistake, a complete error. They stumble and they just cannot. This is the BJP and the NDA. And the second is that Congress has articulated and understood this is ideology free, and they've got to say what they stand for.
It's just that the BJP
besides the
bounces.
leadership.
I mean, if you can bounce back from the fiasco of the second wave, and you can have, you know, full-page ads praising Yogi Adityanath and saying what a wonderful job he did, you know, it's really like you can bounce back from anything. But last quick word from you, Gilles, that you know, I really feel like there's a and I say this often, there's a very basic element of what the Congress keeps missing out on, which is how to build a party up from the grassroots. There is no organization anywhere you go, and you can tweet, you can have, you know, make fiery speeches. They just don't do organization building. And I'm not sure whether, you know, you can replace Rahul Gandhi or Priyanka with another group of people. As long as you don't learn to play that game, the booth level grassroots party building game, you'll just keep losing to the BJP.
Yes, but in order to build that grassroots organization, it's not enough to have, you know, a set of ideas or even a fixed ideology or even a historical legacy. You need to have something to offer to your own party workers. The thousands and thousands of young people, mostly young men who work for the BJP, don't do it for free, actually. It takes huge amount of resources to build, you know, that kind of organization. And on top of that, you need to have the will and dedication to, you know, build that organization from the ground up. But the culture in the Congress party has always been top down from, you know, the very early days. It's always been a model of, you know, a cooptation of local elites, but those elites have basically moved away, right?
So I think that's the challenge. How do you go from top down to grassroots? But let's see. Every day brings a new twist and a new headline. Let's see how this current saga plays itself out. But we're completely out of time. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. It's been a fascinating panel. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.